Right, hello everybody. Today I would like to talk about the Indian problem or the Indian question. And I would like to do this for two reasons. First of all, because India has been in the news recently. As we have seen, there was nearly a war between India and Pakistan. And this occurred because there was some kind of terrorist attack in India. The Muslims are playing up again. The Muslims were killing Hindus. And India retaliated this time, and there is a very big river which Pakistan depends upon, and the source of this river is in Indian territory. So they basically decided to shut off the water, and it looked like it was going to spiral into a major war. And obviously I was on Team India's side. But unfortunately, President Trump stepped in and put an end to the war. And, well, we'll see what happens next. Maybe it will blow up again. Who knows? So that was one reason I want to talk about India and its geopolitical importance. But also because India's been in the news again in England. And, again, do you know what? I'm not even really sure about the details here because I'm so fed up with mass immigration. I saw the headlines. I saw a few people tweeting about it. I know the story. It just means more brown people coming over here, and I couldn't look. But anyway, there's been some kind of trade deal with India, which apparently means that Indians can come here and they don't have to pay national insurance for 3 years or something like this. It's like they get to be tax-free residents or something. It's quite bizarre. But yeah, guess what? Big surprise. More mass immigration from India. So I thought now would be a good time to talk about the Indian question, the Indian problem. But also because I have started to write my book, my magnum opus. I've finally sat down and I've begun to write it. And this book will be called Thoughts on the Veda and the English Race. I've actually done like a 5-hour long video entitled Thoughts on the Veda and the White Race before on a previous channel, which has long since been deleted and lost. Maybe you can find it on Odyssey somewhere. But essentially I like the title because I guess you could simplify it down to the Veda and the White Race, or the Veda and the English. You know, it's like War and Peace, Crime and Punishment. Simple title. So I've finally decided to sit down and write my magnum opus, my masterpiece, the thing that's been gnawing me from the inside for so many years, the thing that's been just buzzing around in the back of my head. I do very much feel like that wizard from Terry Pratchett's The Discworld. What is the first novel called? The Colour of Magic. The Colour of Magic, and I forget the second one. The Light Fantastic? I forget the name of the second one. But the first Terry Pratchett novel was called The Colour of Magic. Isn't it amazing these days we don't have any good authors? Nobody writes anything that anybody can be excited about. People say that people don't read anymore because of social media. I'm sure that plays a part. But people also don't read anymore because there are no good authors. And there's nobody exciting writing any interesting books. Whether it's high literature or low literature or fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. There's just nothing. Back in the 90s, people used to write books. And people read them. Unfortunately, the feminists have overtaken the book industry, and these people are very, very boring. Women in general are just boring people. They don't like excitement. They don't like to offend people. And so anybody who's got anything interesting to say just gets extinguished. But anyway, going on a tangent. Point being, Terry Pratchett's first novel, Terry Pratchett, OG flat earther, Terry Pratchett, in his first novel he had... The hero of the novel was called Rincewind, and he was a wizard, but he was a failed wizard, and he could not remember any spells, even though he tried really, really hard. And one day he found out the reason for this, and the reason for this is because in the Wizard University there's a book with some really, really big spells in it, and nobody's allowed to read the book. But he snuck into the library one day, read the book, and one of the spells jumped out of the pages of that book and into his mind, and he'd been carrying it ever since. And because this was such a big, old, powerful, ancient spell, essentially none of the smaller spells wanted to go into his mind. He couldn't remember anything else. He couldn't fit any other magic in his mind because he had the biggest spell in the whole world, well, one of the biggest spells in the whole world in his mind. I just thought it was an interesting idea, and I do feel maybe I'm just being a tad megalomaniac and whatever. But anyway, anybody who watches my channel knows I'm completely crazy, but I do feel like this is my life story, you know. I just feel like I've got to write this flipping book. I can't do anything else. I can't achieve anything else until I get this thing done. You know, that's just the way I feel. So anyway, sorry for that. A bit of an introspective tangent at the beginning of the video. Very boring, I'm sure. I hate it when you watch a YouTube video and some guy's just prattling on about his life, and it's just like, mate, I don't care about you. Can you stop talking about yourself? Can you just get on with like talking about whatever you're supposed to be talking about? But anyway, whatever. Point being, I'm writing my book. I'm writing my magnum opus, finally, okay? And the argument that I'm presenting is the argument I've been presenting for a long time. If you believe in God, then you have to believe that God is the origin of everything. If you believe that, then everything must come from God, which means God must be alive, right? In the same way the tree comes from the seed, and so the tree is contained within a seed. If life comes from God, then God himself must be alive. He must be a person. He must be able to speak. He must have emotions. He must have feelings. He must be a personality. He must have a form, because this world is full of form. He can't just be a disembodied voice floating in the sky. He can't just be an equation. The deist conception of God is incorrect. God must be a personal God. And if God is a personal God, well, the question comes, well, what does he look like? And the only people that answer this question are the Indians. It's the ancient Veda. It's the Vedic religion of India. And they tell us that he looks like Krishna or Vishnu or Narayan. It's the same thing. Same person. Ram. Same person. So that's the central argument. That's the argument I've been pushing forward forever. First of all, you have to prove the existence of God. Very difficult. My answer to that question would be essentially it's Pascal's wager. And Pascal was a French man, and he said, you know, he liked to gamble, and he said, well, you know, I'm betting on God, essentially, because the benefits are huge and the downside is very low. Whereas if you bet against God, you might end up in hell forever, and it's a good bet. I mean, I'm not exactly saying that's 100% the proof, but that is my central argument. Really, you have to choose. You have to choose to believe. You have to choose. Nobody can force you to believe. You have to be sincere. You have to want to know. You have to be curious. And if you are, then you will ask lots of questions. And if this happens, you will be drawn in that direction. And you will pray and you will serve. And if you do that, then you'll know that God exists. If you don't, you won't. And it's really that simple. You have to choose. You have a choice. Do you want to serve or do you not want to serve? Okay, it's the city of God, the city of men. Do you want to serve God or do you want to serve men? Do you want to serve God or do you want to serve your lusty desires, your desires for sense gratification, your desires to follow materialistic things in this world? That's your choice. What do you want to do? Every single day we face the same choice again and again and again. So the whole thing of proving God's existence, really, like, you can present all kinds of logical arguments for the existence of God, but the atheist will never accept them. Not because the logical arguments are incorrect, but because he doesn't want to. And because logic in itself is never enough, because the skeptic can always just say no. The skeptic can pick a hole in any argument that you can present to him. He can always say, oh, what about this? Or what about that? Or what about this? Or what about that? And he'll try and find a way around, a way out. I mean, classic example, the cosmological argument for God. This is a foundational argument in Western civilization, first dreamt up by Aristotle, as far as I understand it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it goes back to Plato and Socrates before him, but I mean, I'm sure Aristotle was the guy that really championed it. Adopted by Christianity, adopted by Islam. So all the Abrahamic faiths really kind of rest on this argument. And the argument basically is that God is the first cause. And the world needs a first cause, because everything in this universe is caused by something else, and therefore there must be a beginning. to the universe. And to say that the universe just appeared for no reason at all, from nothing, makes no sense at all. It's illogical, because everything in this universe, if you can say, oh, I'm an atheist, I only believe in empirical evidence. Okay, well, 100% of empirical evidence tells you that everything in this universe was caused by something else. Therefore, there must be a cause for the universe. And that cause, well, the only thing that could cause the whole of everything must be the supreme being, the most powerful being, that's God, right? That's a very straightforward logical argument. But you present that to an atheist, and he'll just twiddle-squiddle it on his head, and he'll say, well, who caused God? And that's the point is, the whole point of the argument is you can't have an infinite regressive causes. Nobody caused God. You have to have a beginning to everything. And it makes rational sense. But the atheist won't accept it. Not because it's illogical, but because he doesn't want to. So, and why doesn't he want to? Because he wants to enjoy. He wants to do whatever he wants to do, and he doesn't want to be judged. Basically. This is why homosexuals are atheists. Like 99%. The left wing, atheists. They're all atheists. Atheists are just scumbags, generally speaking. From my experience. Some Christians are scumbags too, to be honest with you. But but they're usually nicer. They're usually a lot nicer, in my experience. And the strong atheists, the one that have an anger against God, they are the absolute worst people I've ever met in my entire life. Just awful, awful people. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, this is the argument I'm presenting in my book. Okay, I'm finally writing my magnum opus. The idea, the central idea is, if you believe in God, he has to be a person. If you think he's a person, well, who is he? Well, Krishna is the only answer to that question. Therefore, we've got to accept the Veda, because that is the word of God. And once you understand that, you can understand that we're living in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago, and everything is shit because of this. We live in the age of lies, we live in an age of technology, we live in an age where essentially demons have taken over the world. Okay, David Icke is right. Well, he's right about that. He's wrong about a lot of things, because he's an atheist, and he doesn't like the government, doesn't like God, and he's kind of crazy boomer guy. But about the shape-shifting lizards, or whatever they are, these beings, whatever they are, he's right. We live in Kali Yuga, demons have taken over the world, and the Jews work for the demons, and they're promoting homosexuality and feminism and multiculturalism in order to destroy humanity and plunge it into slavery, debt slavery, essentially. That's the world we live in. It's very dark, it's very fucked up. Most people don't have the energy, the mental energy or clarity to see it and understand it, because it is so dark. I really do think actually you need a light in order to illuminate the darkness. Unless you believe in God, and unless you really got your head screwed on, and you've thought this thing through, and you actually do realize, oh yeah, Krishna is God, you're not going to be able to understand anything that's going on. You're going to be scratching around in the dark. You're not going to realize how bad things really are. Now, I say that, I don't mean to scare people. You know, life is life, whatever. You can have a happy life. There's no problem. But we do live in Kali Yuga. And we've been living in Kali Yuga for 5,000 years. And it is the age of lies. And like the whole globalist, you know, the whole idea that we're a rock spinning in an infinite void is just made up. Evolution is just made up. These are just invented ideas. Materialistic, religious ideas, really. To a way of explaining the world that entraps us more in this world. Makes us feel like we're weak, and it helps them to enslave us and to rule over us. I mean, it's that whole thing about like the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing you that he doesn't exist. In a similar way, aliens and demons have convinced you that they don't really exist. They've convinced you that there is no heaven and there is no hell. Right? They've convinced you that they've actually taken away our dreams. A number of times I see on the internet guys, young white guys saying, we're going to fly to the stars, we're going to build spaceships. No, we're not. We're never going to Mars, we're never going to the moon. That's all fake, that's all gay, it's never going to happen. And it's a false dream that they've sold you. It's actually, as I've said many times before on my science fiction videos, whenever I read a science fiction book, I basically say the same thing. It's a new religion. It's a fantasy. In the past, people wanted to die and go to heaven. Nowadays, people want to build a spaceship and go to heaven. What is heaven? The infinite galaxy. You're on your spaceship, flying through the stars. Post-scarcity universe. That's it. The Great Darkness. Star Trek, Star Wars. That's it. The ultimate expansion of mankind across the stars. It's a great dream. It's a fantasy, but it's not real. So, this is the world that we live in. And I finally sat down to write my book. And this is what I'm getting into. But, my dear friends, before I can get into all of this, I have to give a preface, a explanation, I can't think of the exact right word, an apology perhaps, because I have to make it really clear, I am an ethno-nationalist and I do want to kick all the Indians out. I don't want people to think that I'm happy about Indian immigration into England or any of the white nations of the world. I don't want these people here. And the simple fact of the matter is, white DNA is recessive. So if you have brown people in your country, they're going to have sex with the locals and they're going to have children. They're going to have, and if that carries on, then in 100 or 200 years' time, there won't be any more white people. They'll all be brown. And that's exactly what has happened to Persia, which used to be white. It's what's happened to North Africa, which used to be white and Christian. And in my opinion, it's what's happened to India itself, which I don't know if it's ever 100% white, because they always had Pulinders, they used to call them, like, just Aborigines and things. And also their skin, it is warm down there. I think there is something to the idea that, people, white people near the Mediterranean are definitely browner than people further up north. I've lived in Lithuania for a while, and I can tell you the people from Lithuania have very, very, very white skin. And that's because there's no light. So there is a certain truth to the idea that people living in India and in hot parts of the world, they are going to have a slightly browner skin naturally. I think there's a truth to that. I don't have a problem with that. But they've lost their blue eyes. And blue eyes used to be a common feature in India, and it's not anymore. So they have been racially degraded, for want of a better word. And I don't wish to insult the Indians. I like the Indians. I lived there for some time. They're friendly people. But nonetheless, whatever the cause and whatever's happened, they are not white anymore, and I don't want them in the country. In my country, I don't want them in the white nations of the world. And I don't want brown people at all in the white nations of the world, because if they mix with white people, then you have white genocide, essentially. And this is what we're fighting against. So why am I making this video? I'm making this video because India's been in the news, and because I'm writing this book, my magnum opus, finally, and I'm dealing with the Indian question right at the beginning of the book, because the question comes, Brutus, right? Or what have I called myself? Esoteric Bomber Harris, my new name on Twitter. Whatever you want to call me. The question comes, Brutus, what are you doing, mate? You say you're an ethno-nationalist and you're writing a book saying we should worship Krishna. It doesn't make any sense. That's a foreign religion from over there. And if you're promoting this religion, then you're promoting Vedic culture. And if you're promoting Vedic culture, you're giving a card to the Indians. And the Indians are going to wave that card and they're going to say, well, we should be able to stay in your country because we come from the superior land of the Veda, or some such other nonsense. Why shouldn't you, Brutus? Shouldn't you be rallying behind paganism? Shouldn't you be rallying behind Christianity or something like this? So I've been writing about this. I've been thinking about this, and then the war kicked off, and I thought, you know what I'll do while I'm writing this book, because it is a very slow process for me, because you write, you read, you go back, you go forth. I'll just make videos about what I'm talking about because it helps me clear my head, and also people can comment in the comment section, and I can see different perspectives and see points that I've missed, and so on and so forth. So that's at the 20-minute mark, right? A third of the way through this video, I finally got to the point. That's why I'm making this video. And I guess the first answer, why not Christianity? Well, because it's a Jewish religion, right? Or at least it's mixed with Judaism. Now, I'm of the opinion that Jesus went to India and he obtained love of God from India, because I don't see this concept anywhere else in the West until Jesus appears. Now, you have Aristotle believed in God because he promoted the, as I said, the idea of God as the first mover, but he didn't really believe in God as a personal God, and he didn't really seem to promote any kind of love of God or service of God. Not that I've seen, anyway. It was Jesus that really, he said you should love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And he promoted this idea of servitude and so on and so forth. And I think he got it from India, because we all know he went missing up until the age of, I can't remember. He was crucified at 33, wasn't it? But he did, like when he was a young man, he went missing for a long time. And I am of the opinion that the Jews came from India. I think they are Shavites. I think that what you have to understand about Vedic religion is that there are two poles, essentially. On the one hand, you've got Krishna and Vishnu and Narayan and Ram, all the same person. That's God. That's Bhagavan. Okay? And the Vaishnavas worship Vishnu. Okay, this is what I am, a Vaishnava. And the goal of Vaishnavism is love of God. Alright, otherwise known as Prem. And that's the goal, right? And there's a lot of people in India that follow this faith. They're actually in a minority, though, with the Hindus. The vast majority of Hindus are actually... This is why I don't like being called a Hindu, because it's really just not accurate, but whatever. And also I don't want to be associated with Indians, and also it's a made-up word. But anyway, the vast majority of Indians aren't really followers of Krishna. Even if they worship Krishna, they're not really followers of Krishna, because they don't understand the philosophy properly. What they really are followers of Shiva. And essentially there's a battle between Krishna and Shiva. Okay? Or at least Krishna's followers and Shiva's followers. One time, one aspect of the religion, like the Shaivite aspect of the religion, will dominate, and other times the Krishna aspect will dominate, and it kind of goes back and forth. And I think in Kali Yuga, being the way it is, the Shiva aspect really dominates. And Shiva is essentially, he's the savior of the most fallen, and he's worshipped by demons or bad people. And there's a curse. If you worship Shiva, you'll become an atheist, right? And so what has happened is that people that worship Shiva, they essentially become Buddhists. They develop this idea in their head that I am Krishna, I am Bhagavan, I am Ganesh, I am Hanuman, I am blah blah blah, right? I am God, right? Which is just another way of saying you don't believe in God, really. I am God, you are God, everybody is God. And they don't want to obtain love of God. What they want to do is merge into the nothingness, merge into Brahma. Like the Buddhists. They want to be liberated from suffering. They don't want to serve God. They don't like God. They're angry against God. This is the driving force of Buddhism. This is the driving force of the Shaivite religion in many ways. They're angry against God because they're suffering in this universe. And they quite rightfully see that's... Well, I say rightfully, but I mean God created the universe, right? So they blame it on God. And it's partly true. God did create the universe, so it kind of is his fault. But the fact is that we chose to come here. Everybody chooses to come here. People choose to come here because they want to enjoy. They want to enjoy sex desire. That's why we're here. So, the way to get out of the universe is to stop chasing your material desires and to worship God, and then you don't have to live here anymore. You can escape from the cycle of birth and death. That's the choice that's laid out in front of you. So anyway, so there's this struggle between Krishna and Shiva. Okay, a lot of atheistic kind of people, they gravitate towards Shiva and to Shankara. Basically, if you see like Indian sadhus and they've got the 3 lines across their head, they're basically Shaivites. They might not call themselves that, but they basically follow Shiva, you see. So I think that the Jews are Shaivites. And they even have a festival called Shiva. And I think that they were at some point just kicked out of India. I mean, they got kicked out of everywhere else. Or maybe they just left, or whatever. They were coming in that... We know that they were going from east to west. In my opinion, obviously, because I follow the Veda, I think the whole world was once Vedic. So the Vedic religion was universal in various different varieties at some point. It's all just collapsed now. And all that is left is India. Or the land that's now called India. That land is actually called Bharatvash. That's its real name. But anyway, whatever the case, whether the Jews actually came from India or not, they have a festival called Shiva. They are against God because they are against any kind of statue or image of God. And they're following some weird Kundalini yoga type process to merge with Godhead, right? Go back to Godhead and so on and so forth. So I think perhaps because of this is why Jesus went back to India to find out what happened in the land of my ancestors. But that's a complete speculation on my behalf. Who knows? Whatever the case, when we're answering this question, that was a long tangent. But anyway, if you're answering this question, Brutus, why don't you rally behind Christianity? Because the Bible is a Jewish history book. And once you discover the Jewish question, you're not going to want to read a Jewish history book and base your civilization on that, are you? It has to be rejected. I don't think Jesus should be rejected, though. I think we should keep the New Testament and reject the Old. That's what I think. And I think Jesus could be a pivotal, well, obviously is a pivotal figure in history, but he could once again be a pivotal figure because everybody likes Jesus. The Indians like Jesus, the Hindus like Jesus, the Buddhists like Jesus, even the Muslims like Jesus. The only people that don't like Jesus are the Jews. So I think it's unwise to be anti-Christian and anti-Jesus. But Christianity itself, they're following a Jewish history book, and all the ideas are just made up. Okay, I'm sorry, but they had the Council of Nicaea, and they voted, and they decided on the Trinity, and they rejected Arius in the Arian controversy. I think most people walking down the street, they could understand and accept that Jesus was some kind of prophet or holy man. They're going to have trouble accepting that Jesus is actually God himself. They can accept that he's a manifestation or empowered by God, perhaps, but to say that he's God himself and God himself got crucified, this is just weird. This is literally the Jews telling you that they killed God. This is like Nietzsche in the 1st century, right? And then we drank his blood. It's like part human sacrifice, part God sacrifice. It's fucking weird. And you could get away with that shit in the medieval age. You can't get away with it now. Because you can't burn people at the stake anymore for committing blasphemy. And so I think Christianity needs to really heal itself by embracing a Jesus that just wants to promote love of God and who believes in reincarnation, like many of the early Christians did before the church came along and turned it into a cult, essentially. A successful cult, but a cult nonetheless. So that's how I feel about Christianity. I don't think it... I don't think it's our ultimate thing. So, I mean, that's my answer to that question. Why not rally behind paganism? Well, I do rally behind paganism in a sense that there is no contradiction between worshipping Krishna and Odin at the same time. Why do I say this? Because it's natural and normal in Vedic culture to worship and respect your ancestors. You don't even necessarily have to worship Odin, but just to respect him. If you talk to Indians, a lot of them, I mean, a lot of them are very mixed and they don't know their heritage, but some of them, if they're a Kshatriya family or a Brahmin family, they'll know exactly what Kshatriya clan they came from, what Brahmin clan they came from, and usually this, they'll have an ancestor way back who's some kind of god or rishi or some kind of supernatural being who founded the clan, basically, and they'll know that and they'll respect that, and because they know this and respect this, they keep the clan alive, they keep the family alive. It's a very family orientated thing, the Varnashram Dharma system of the Indians. It's a clan system essentially. So I am of the clan of Woden. That's what the English race is. It's the clan of Woden. And so Woden absolutely 100% should be respected and worshipped, and we should know the stories about him. And it doesn't matter if these stories are real or not. It just matters for a cultural sense and for a sense of identity, a sense of knowledge of who we are as a people. It matters that we know these things and we respect these things. If we forget Woden, we will just destroy ourselves. And this is essentially what has happened. This is why Christianity has done us in, because it's wiped away all of our ancestors and replaced it with Jewish ancestors. So instead of people looking to Woden and understanding that we have the blood of Woden flowing through our veins, people are looking to Adam and Eve and various different characters in the Bible. And you can think, oh, that doesn't matter. It actually really does matter. A lot of these concepts, they're just sitting in the background of your head. Most ordinary people don't think about these things, or they're not conscious of them. But they are there, and they do shape culture over the generations, over hundreds and thousands of years. They shape us, they form us. We have to have a good sense of who our ancestors are. So there is no conflict between worshipping Krishna and being a pagan. Not really. But nonetheless, I don't think paganism by itself can save us, because they don't have a conception of God. Now, what the pagans should do is they should say that Woden got his runes from God, and they should just transform the stories and turn Woden into some kind of prophet or something like this, some kind of holy man. That's what I would do. I would rewrite the whole thing. And you could say that's sacrilegious, how could you say such a thing, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Romans didn't have a problem doing this. And my example for this would be Virgil, who wrote the Aeneid. And he wrote this round about the time of Julius Caesar, I forget. He didn't dedicate it to Caesar. It was maybe it was Pompey, I forget. Or maybe it was, I don't know. But round about that time. Round about the time of the appearance of Jesus. But he, if you read Virgil's the Aeneid, it's a foundation myth of Rome. It's a great book. And he talks about the Trojans, and he talks about Aeneas. But it's written in the style of Homer. And there is the Jupiter is in it. And the various different gods. And they interact with Aeneas. And there is that two-level type of story, which is the Homeric way of writing a story. It's very beautiful. But the point I'm making is that it's just a story. It's a poem. It's made up. Virgil is not claiming to be a prophet. He's not saying I had a divine vision. No, he's just like, yeah, I'm going to write a flipping story and put Jupiter in it. And nobody burned him at the stake for saying this. How dare you write a story? How dare you put words in the mouth of Jupiter? Nobody got upset with him. because they had more of a... And they worshipped Jupiter. They weren't atheists at that time. This was a pagan Roman culture. And yet they had no problem at all with him creating a story about Jupiter, which is completely made up. Right? Or at least partly made up. I mean, maybe it relied on more ancient sources. Maybe that's why he got away with it. But nonetheless, there's a lot of artistic creativity there, whatever way you look at it. And they tolerated it and they accepted it. So I think they had the right idea. They viewed the gods as beings that are there, and we don't really know them and we don't really understand them, but they are a source of inspiration and poetry and so on and so forth. And we can write stories about them and it's okay. They won't be upset. This sort of thing. And I think this is the attitude we should take to Odin or to Woden. And I think we should rewrite his story and put God in the middle of it. And that's how you fix paganism. And that's how you get all the Christians on your side. Because the Christians are right to follow Christianity because of love of God. That's the ultimate goal of life. That's why they will always turn against paganism. But if you could take God, put it into the Woden religion, boo, you've got an ethno-nationalist religion with God at the center of it. So that's fantastic. I'm all 100% in favor of that. But that's just me looking at it from a sociological point of view. Like, I don't actually think that's the truth. And at the end of the day, you just got to speak the truth, which I suppose is my ultimate reason for doing what I'm doing, writing this book. And why am I making this video? Why do I make any of the videos? Why do I do what I do? Right? Why can't I leave this thing alone? Why can't I quit? Why can't I give up? It's just like, well, you got to speak the truth, isn't it? You just got to speak the truth. That's your duty. That's what you got to do. Otherwise, I'm just not happy. And the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna just tells Arjuna, do your duty. Don't worry about the results. Don't worry about whether you succeed or not. That's not the point. You should want to succeed, for sure. You should dream about succeeding. That is the motivation for doing what you do. But whether you succeed or not is not in your hands. You are not powerful enough to control this world. And you don't know your karma. You don't know your destiny. You don't know your fate. You don't know what's going to happen. And all you can do is just try to do the right thing. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, okay, it doesn't matter. At least you did the right thing. Yeah? So, that's the ultimate answer to the question, right? In my apology. Why do I keep talking about India when I want to kick the Indians out of the country? Why do I keep talking about Krishna when I'm trying to save the white race? Well, the ultimate answer to that question is because Krishna's God. And even if that is awkward, it just is the way it is. So that's it. I've just got to speak the truth, even if that upsets people. And it would be so much easier if I didn't. It'd be so much easier if I just it's too late for it now because I've burned those bridges. But if I just accepted the I love Adolf Hitler cult, that would make life a lot easier. At least we're not speaking German, right? I'd have so many friends and people, give me a pat on the back. Or even better, I could just be like some kind of mainstream, I could join the Tommy crowd. Then people would watch my videos, right? Or, I don't know, so many things you could do. It's so much easier to lie, isn't it? That's the point. It's so much easier to lie. If you tell the truth, everybody's going to hate you and your life will suck because you're going to fall out with people all the time. And this is what I do all the time on the internet and in my personal life as well. I just can't stop doing it. I just can't stop arguing with people. I just can't stop doing it. I don't know what is wrong with me. Just yesterday, I got in an argument with 3 blokes because we're talking about feminism. And I was like, oh, these feminists make out I'm the bad guy. You know. But I'm not the one that wants to put women in the army. Right? And these three, it's just so pathetic. No wonder this country's going down the shithole. Really. 3 grown men, and they just kind of like look at the ground and they giggle. They fucking look at the ground and they fucking giggle. Like fucking children. Okay? You want to know like why England's going down the shithole? Because it's full of fucking people like that. You can't say that. Oh, I don't have a problem with women being in the army. Oh, so you want women to die? You want to send them into a battlefield so they get shot? Well, you know, I'm not a feminist, but, you know, I mean, like, people can do whatever they want. Well, you're a fucking retard, aren't you? You haven't thought through anything that you're saying. You just giggle. You literally just watch shit on your phone and you get programmed by it and you just go with the flow. And if anybody says anything contrary to mainstream opinion, you fucking giggle like a child. You moron. Right? Oh my god. This country's just full of this. Full of people like that. It's full of fucking people like that. And that's why we're going down the shithole. But anyway, point being, the truth is the truth, my dear friends. Okay? It's gonna be unpopular. You're gonna get in a lot of trouble. The whole flat earth thing, very unpopular. Nobody wants to listen to it. Nobody likes it. I don't know why I don't have any flat earthers watching my... Maybe I should just make a video. Flat earth is real. Then I could get some flat earthers to watch my channel. That's a good idea, isn't it? Fucking retard that I am. But, God almighty. But nobody's interested in it. Everybody thinks it's dumb. And I lose so many... You know, the number of times I've seen in the comment section, oh, I liked your videos, I thought you were smart. Oh, but it turns out you're a flat earther. You're a retard. And then they just leave. Right? So, you know, if you speak the truth, you shoot yourself in the leg. You really do. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Both with your internet YouTube career, right? That's me saying that with 400 subscribers on my 6th flipping channel. But both as your career as an unsuccessful e-celeb, but also in your personal life as well. You're just going to you're going to mess everything up. But nonetheless, I can't tolerate the lies. I just can't tolerate it. Because the more you speak the truth, the closer you come to God. Because God is the truth. And he's the origin of all truth. And if you keep speaking the truth, then all of the layers of lies will dissipate and disappear. And eventually you'll get to the essence of things. That's why I can't stand lies. That's why I can't fucking stand these secret neo-Nazis on the internet. I can't fucking stand them. Because they're liars. They on the one hand, it's all nudge nudge wink wink. You know, it's all like, oh, at least we're not speaking German. And blah blah. It's like, if you love fucking Adolf Hitler, come on, say it, mate. Don't like dick around. But they won't. They'll dick around, and I mean, some of them don't. Some of them come out and say it, but a lot of them, they just beat around the bush, and you know, and then they'll say, oh, we can't talk about it because it's bad optics for the white nationalist movement or whatever. And it's like, well, you've just poisoned yourself, and you're refusing the cure to the poison because you won't get the thing out into the open to discuss it. And because you won't get because whenever anybody tries to discuss it, you just take 2 steps back and you step away. The thing never gets resolved. So you've essentially decided that you're right, and you're not going to put your real opinion out there. And because you don't do that, nobody can confront your real opinion, and so you're just going to sit there for years, decades, on the internet, and before the internet was even created, just going, I'm right. I know I'm right. And everybody else is wrong, and they're all stupid, and I'm right. No, you're not fucking right about Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was a moron. He started a war nobody wanted. He's probably a Jew, to be perfectly honest with you. In fact, I'm just 99% certain he's got Jewish blood in him, because his grandma worked in the house of a Jew, left when she was like 14, 15, had a baby. Nobody knew who the father was, but the Jew that she used to work for gave her money for like 10, 15 years until the boy was an adult. Right? So, what kind of Jew gives money to somebody for no reason? So, yeah, definitely Hitler had Jewish blood in him. It may even have been Rothschild blood. And then all of a sudden the penny drops. And you can see the whole Nazi cult is just a Jewish cult. That's why it's promoted by people like Mike Enoch. Everybody knows he's a Jew. Everybody knows he's a Jew. And yet, nobody will talk about it. I've been talking about it for fucking how long now? 5, 6, 7 years. Right? It's just like screaming in the void. Because everyone's dishonest. Just fucking dishonest people. Liars. The whole... So I'm going on a bit of a rant. But the whole world's just full of liars. Okay? So, if you lie, your life will be successful. If you tell the truth, your life will not be successful. But you will feel a certain inner happiness. A certain fire will be burning in your soul. And you'll know that at least you're honest. Right? So again, like, to answer the question, why bother talking about India? Why bother talking about Krishna if you're a white nationalist? Well, because it's the truth. I'm sorry. God exists. He has to look like something. So what does he look like? Well, the only religion that tells us what he looks like is the Vedic one. So I'll go with that. And again, another argument presented again and again. How many times I've presented this argument to people, and they look at it, they go, yeah, and then they just walk away. And I've never seen anybody offer me a counter argument, any kind of solid counter argument. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating that the lack of ability to reason that people have. People just don't reason. Like the other day I was talking to this girl. I managed to get her on race realism, because I did the old Australian Aborigine thing, right? I just said, look, they're biologically retarded. They've got an IQ of fucking 60. They're never going to do maths. Okay? And that's it. Right? That's it. They're dumb. Okay? And she got it. She understood. And then I said, women shouldn't be firefighters, right? Because a woman is not strong enough to pick up a heavy bloke. And she didn't like that. And I'm like, but logically speaking, we're just talking about biology. It's the same philosophical foundation, right? It's the old nature-nurture debate. I'm arguing from nature. I'm saying nature is important. I'm saying that nurture cannot overcome nature. It can to a certain extent, but there are limitations. I cannot fly if I want to, because I don't have fucking wings, right? I can't breathe underwater because I'm not a fish. All right? In a similar way, an Australian Aborigine is not going to build a spaceship, and a woman shouldn't be a firefighter. There are limitations. This is nature. But she wouldn't accept it. And their argument was that, well, everybody should just be able to do what they want to do. And it's like, well, okay, well, people are going to die then, aren't they? Right? Because of your selfish desire to just do whatever you want. You're just being fucking selfish. Right? She didn't like that at all. But point being, logic, my friends. Logic. People... Excuse me. Most people aren't very good at logic and arguments, but anyway. So why talk about India? Why promote Krishna when I'm a white nationalist? Well, Christianity won't work. Paganism's not going to work, and it's the truth. There are other reasons as well. One reason is actually what we should really be doing is we should be allying ourselves with India. I mean, this is a kind of broad reason. It's not a very strong reason, but essentially, well, let me talk you through it. Because we just had a war, and I suppose the question comes up, well, whose side should we take, Pakistan or India? I think for me, it's the simple choice is India. Why? Because they like us. The Indians like us. The Indians are like, when you meet a friend and you meet someone, they want to be your friend, but you don't really like them, but they really want to be your friend, and you're like, okay, let's hang out, right? That's India with the white people of the world. They want to be our friends. They like us. They like us more than they like the Chinese. They like us more than they don't fucking like the Africans. And they don't like the Muslims. They want to be friends with us. They really do. Because India is an Indo-European culture. Before the Second World War, it was recognized as an Aryan culture. And it was recognized that Sanskrit was the mother of all languages. Now that's all been washed away and the word Aryan has been replaced with Indo-European. But nonetheless, they are white, or they at least used to be white. In fact, the whole of the Fertile Crescent used to be white. So India, Iran, Iraq, and what is now Turkey, I suppose. It was all white. The Arabs were always like living in the desert, a little bit mixed. But there was a continual stream of whiteness, I suppose, because it's very mountainous. Turkey and Iraq and Iran, it's a mountain region that reaches down into India, and it used to be trees there, and lions and so on and so forth. It was the Fertile Crescent. The point I'm saying is mountainous is because it could survive attacks from the great, Asiatic hordes of the Asian steppe. Okay, the Mongolians, the nomadic forces. What's his name? His did a great video recently saying that essentially that part of the world is an anti-civilization, which I thought was hilarious. But it's really good. It was a really good definition of that part of the world. I thought it was quite intuitive. What's the word? It was good. That's what it was. But anyway, point being, the Indians like us. They are our friends, or they want to be our friends. Now, we want them out of our countries because they're annoying and they do scams and they're always chasing after the white women and they're always inviting all their brothers and relatives over. So we don't want them here. We want to kick them out. But as a geopolitical friend, it's better to ally ourselves with them than it is to ally ourselves with fucking Pakistan. That's for sure. And essentially, my central argument is that this power abhors a vacuum. In the past, you could have separate empires because we didn't have the ability to travel across the world so easily. But now that we have modern technology, there will be a world empire. And either the Anglosphere continues to dominate the world, or somebody else does, probably China. But then again, China doesn't have any oil, so that's a real limitation on what it can do, because you can always just switch the power off and then it's goodbye China, right? So it's got problems. But nonetheless, point being, like, there are ethno-nationalists out there who try to imagine, we can all just live in our countries and be friends under the rainbow. This is nonsense. You either rule the world or somebody else does. Okay, or you can either be in a coalition of people that are ruling the world, or you are ruled. Right, that's it. So, moving forwards, what we need to do is we need to save England. We need to save the Anglosphere, save the American Empire, which is what is left of the British Empire, essentially. We want to save that. We don't want to tear it down. I mean, there's another point. Like, elites out there, they it's much easier to go with the flow than it is against the flow. If you're trying to, like, tear down the American Empire, you're just going to get squashed. If, on the other hand, you say, hey guys, let's keep the American Empire, but we'll rename it the British Empire, which is what it used to be, and then we'll make it white and pro-white, whatever, then maybe you can get the elites on your side, right? Essentially, kick the Israeli lobby out of Washington and replace it with an English lobby, a pro-white English lobby. That's the plan. That has to be the goal. Okay, so once you've got that clear in your mind, how's it going to work? Well, obviously it's going to be the Anglosphere first. The Anglosphere working together to dominate the world. Then, secondarily, it's obviously going to be Europe. Europe's already part of NATO. Then, obviously, we want Russia. This is why I'm not in favor of all this anti-Russian rhetoric that's out there. These people are just small-minded. They don't have a vision of the future. You have to have a plan for world domination. And I'm very strong on this. It's become much clearer in my mind the more I talk about it, to be honest with you. But I don't know, you look at different political books, Aristotle's Politics, or I don't know, flipping Reflections on the Revolution in France, or whatever, these different political books. And I'm looking at them now and thinking, if you don't have a plan for world domination, your political theory isn't really worth very much, is it? Right? Like, this is a game of chess, and you should want to win the game, okay? So if you're an ethno-nationalist and you're not dreaming of world domination, you're an idiot. You're a retard. Right? You need to ditch your gay retarded socialism and get with the program. So once you've got that clear in your mind, you look at the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and it's like, well, what are we going to do with Russia? We don't want them to be our enemies. They're white. Okay? So we just want to get them on our side. And they wanted to be on our side before. I mean, they do consider themselves to be European. I know there's a lot of anti-English, kind of this kind of like Durganist, anti-European vibe kind of growing in Russia. I know, but they are Christian and white. Or at least a lot of them are. So, let's end the war with Ukraine. Right? Make peace. Brilliant. And then cultivate a friendship with Russia. Putin is an old guy. He's going to go down at some point. And then he can get replaced with somebody who's pro-white, pro-Christian, pro-European. And then we've got an ally. Okay? So basic geopolitical setup for world domination is going to be England, America in the Anglosphere, Europe, Russia. And then after all of that, it's going to be India. Because they are an Indo-European culture. And they really want to be our friends. You know, and there's so many other things I wanted to say in this video. Maybe I rambled on for too much, but I don't want to go for more than an hour. There were other things I wanted to say. I just don't have time now. So that's that. I mean, but anyway, that's what this video is about. I thought I'd say something about India, in defense of India, and why promote Krishna, why promote Vedic culture. If you're a white nationalist, it doesn't seem to make any sense. It does, actually, because the truth is the truth. Christianity's not going to save us. Paganism's not going to save us. India will be a good ally. And also, I mean, I'll end on this. If I'm right, and I am right, and we do live in Kali Yuga, and this world is ruled by fucking demons. And by the way, you don't believe me? Go and look up the story of what's his name? Netanyahu, his son, and the Daily Stormer, and the meme that he posted. And it's a meme of, first of all, you got the shape-shifting alien lizard dangling a carrot in front of the Illuminati, who's dangling a carrot in front of the Jews, who's dangling a carrot in front of America. I think this meme is 100% spot on. That is what is going on in our world. That is an accurate description of the power hierarchy in our world. So if this is true, we're not going to get out of this mess without God on our side and without an understanding of the absolute truth, because things are really, really bad. It is Kali Yuga, and unless unless the white race essentially gets back in touch with the Veda, I don't think we're going to make it. I don't think we're going to make it. We need to wash away this gay science fiction idea of conquering the stars. It's not real. It's a fantasy. I like it, you know. I like it as a fantasy. I enjoy it. I've spent my life watching science fiction movies, and reading books and so on and so forth. But it's not real. That religion needs to be swept aside. Evolution needs to be swept aside. We need to come back to reality. Otherwise, we're not going to win this fight. But if we do come back to reality, we win. It's simple. I mean, I really do look at the world, I've got to be honest with you, like it's a puzzle. And if you solve the puzzle, then you win. If you don't solve the puzzle, you don't win. Right? And the key piece of the jigsaw puzzle that's missing is Krishna. And once you put that right in the middle, then everything fits into place and it all makes sense. All the different strands of thought that are on the internet. You know, so many different dissident rights, whatever you want to call it, internet ideas, internet schools of thought, different people with their different conceptions of what's going on. None of it's going to make sense unless you have the central piece, which is Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. Once you put that in the middle, then it's all like, oh, right, got it. Anyway, there you go, guys. I hope you had a nice day. All right, God bless. Goodbye.